Musicians play their instruments. I play the orchestra. This idea that computers shouldn't just be for hobbyists, that it should be something for the mainstream, that it would end up being every man's tool and the most sort of powerful tool that we have out there. What he was so passionate about from the beginning was this idea of computers being intuitive things for us to use.
What I didn't realize that Steve Wozniak was as instrumental in making Apple as he was until I started doing this movie. I'd never even heard of Steve Wozniak until he was on that Kathy Griffin reality show. That was literally the first time I was like, oh, there's another guy? I thought it was Steve Jobs.
I built the circuit board. The graphical interface was stolen. So how come 10 times in a day, I read Steve Jobs as a genius? What do you do?
When you hear that a film is being made that is 180 pages long with very few actors in it, written in 3 acts by Aaron Sorkin, being directed by Danny Boyle with Michael Fassbender playing the lead, you do everything you can to get yourself cast in that movie. I was very excited by, quite honestly, I think the whole package of what it was. I knew the writing was going to be incredible. I knew that it would be thrilling to work with Danny, who I'd never worked with before. The idea of standing in the same room with Michael Fassbender was enough to make me want to faint, let alone work with him. And also I was intrigued by the notion that this wasn't a biopic, and it really isn't. It doesn't focus on his illness, it really only features one member of his family, his daughter Lisa, and it covers 3 specific periods in his life, covering the launch of 3 different products during his working life.
It's a system error.
Fix it.
Fix it?
Yeah.
We're not a pit crew at Daytona. This can't be fixed in seconds.
You didn't have seconds. You had 3 weeks. The universe was created in a third of that time.
Well, someday you'll have to tell us how you did it.
I'm begging you to manage expectations out there.
You see how this reminds you of a friendly face? It's warm and it's playful and inviting and it needs to say hello.
If you keep alienating people for no reason, there's gonna be no one left for it to say hello to.
Your Apple stock was worth $441 million, while your daughter and her mother are on welfare.
She's not my daughter!
I read the script and it is a starburst of a script. I mean, it is like, takes your breath away. I mean, obviously there's so many things you could think about at that point, reasons not to do it, which are all to do with being careful. Should you really be doing a film about a person like this, a controversial person like this, with many people with different opinions, and there'll be family and all those kind of stuff. We've been through some of that on 127 Hours that we've done, the problems of doing true stories, if you call them that. But actually, you read the script and it felt like you would be crazy not to do it. It was extraordinary. It was something, I'd never done anything like it before. The challenges that it gave you were staggering, and it took on the idea that Sorkin had begun with Social Network, which is to look at these people who create this modern world, and that we are talking about the forgers of the world we're living in, and we're only just really beginning to live in it now. The people who create this world for us, and what cost has that had for them, and what can we learn about them by our artists like Sorkin.
We've spoken to the fire marshal and the building manager. They're going to come in and tell everyone to leave.
If a fire causes a stampede to the unmarked exits, it'll have been well worth it for those who survive.
This movie is not a biopic. It's what it gets called because it's nonfiction. It's about someone real, but it's not a biography. There isn't a cradle-to-grave structure to it. We zero in. The movie only has 3 scenes, and those 3 scenes are in real time. Real time, of course, means that 35 or 40 minutes for you in the audience is the same as 35 or 40 minutes for a character on the screen. It's 3 scenes. They all take place backstage before 3 product launches. The original Macintosh in 1984. Then after Steve left Apple, his next venture, which was called Next, in 1988. And then 10 years after that, his return to Apple with basically the iMac, which is the Macintosh that we all use now, in 1998. And so it's just 3 scenes, and in those 3 scenes, all these conflicts that he has in his life get played out.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
EP's movie coverage is brought to you by Nintendo, makers of Splatoon for the Wii U.